Hi there everyone, it's Jan here. This is going to be a remake of the Broccato Estense mini album and gift box tutorial. This time I'm going to break it down into smaller pieces, smaller chunks. I'm going to keep it you know, as short as I can and sort of to the point. And also the reason I'm doing this is because the sizes have changed. So if you remember rightly, these are the sizes that you need simply for the simply for the mini album. Okay, I'm just finding the paper. This is the Broccato Estense. You will probably find that now it's back in the shops, and I'm going to receive my latest delivery hopefully tomorrow, so I'll be able to make all the kits up and everything. There will be, I think, a total of 7 or 8 kits available in total, and then that will be it. Okay, right, so let's sort of pick up and carry on where we were. So these are your measurements for the album only. You will notice that most of the inside pieces, like the waterfalls, the belly bands, the booklets, the pockets, all of those sorts of things, the flap pockets, etc., they're all the same as they were before. The main thing that's changed is the spine. I've needed to make it a little bit wider, and because of that it's changed the outside wrap measurements and the measurements of all the paper, that's, you know, all the Broccato Estense paper measurements that I gave you. But anyway, let's I'm going to redo the video so that it should make it clearer for you. So let's carry on. Okay, so this is the first part. Right, okay, so I've been able to use A3 card stock, and if you can get A3, it's much easier to do it with A3 than it is with A4. However, you can do it with A4. What you need to do is to, if we're working on the outside wrap for the album, what you need to do is to take your 2 pieces of A4 like this. You need to measure across 7 inches from this side, put a little mark and cut down both of them so that they are the full length but 7 inches wide. Okay, then you need to take some 1/4 inch tape. I won't do it with these because I'll show you on the ones that I've already done. You need to take some 1/4 inch score tape. Score tape is best, and run a short line of it, run a line of it down the 7 inch length that you've cut. Okay, like that. I'm not going to stick this one down. And then very carefully you'd simply overlap the other sheet of paper, and that then gives you the longer width that you need. Now your total size that you're going to need for the outside wrap, which we will look at first, is 14 3/4 by 7. So it will be 7 inches this way, and you need 14 3/4 across this way. Try to get your join here in the middle of the 14 3/4. So you'll do sort of 7 and whatever it is that side, and 7 and whatever it is that side. Okay, so that you've got your join in the middle. That way it's down the back of the spine and you won't notice it. But if you can do it from an A3 sheet of paper, so much the better. I couldn't because I just don't have any more right at the moment. So I have joined mine, and I've kind of pressed on with it so that it doesn't hold you up too much. So this was my 14 3/4 across here by 7 down here. Okay, now the first thing that you need to do is to put this on your scoreboard and score it 1/2 inch all the way round. Now this probably won't fit on your scoreboard. It didn't fit on mine, so I'm just going to show you roughly what I did. So let me just double check that we are in focus. Yes, so you can you can score the 1/2 inch at the 2 ends here, then turn it round and score 1/2 inch here again, which is pretty simple. And the way that you score down the long sides that don't fit is that you line it up. Let me line this side up because I haven't cut that corner off yet. You line it up as you would normally do, and you score it down at the 1/2 inch mark, as far down as it will go comfortably without sort of tearing or bending the paper. Okay, and then you simply take this up to where there is an end, line it up against the side, and you can feel the ridge that it needs to go in to continue the score line down, and that enables you to score it at 1/2 inch on these long sides as well. Okay, so now the other thing that we're going to do with this one is we're going to score the inside spine measurements, because I thought that that would be easier for you. So we're going to score here. We're going to line this back up. So this is now the long length across the top. Let me just make sure you can see. Bring it down a bit for you. Yep, there we go. And you have the long length down the top, the 7 inch side down here. I'm doing this in inches because most people's scoreboards are in inches rather than centimetres. But please, you know, if you look at the original sheet with all the sizes on, I have worked them out in the centimetres for you as well. Anyway, so we're going to put this along the top back again. You have your 1/2 inch score line down here, and we're also going to score at 6 5/8. So that's 6 5/8, and we're going to score, then we're going to turn it round, turn the whole thing completely round. Make sure that your 1/2 inch is lined up here, and then you're going to score at 6 5/8 of an inch this way. Okay, much easier than trying to do it 6 5/8 and then, you know, whatever else it will be. But anyway, so you will now have this, and as you can see, I've put my 1/2 inch score tape all the way around the outside, giving it a good burnish. And I'm just in the process of cutting off the corners. Now, I'm not cutting right up to the score lines. I'm just going to cut most of the way, maybe leave a tiny 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. Right, let's put this scoreboard away for the moment. Bring our sheet of card back. You're going to cut off your corners, as I say, not right up to the tape, but fairly close. There and there. And then you're going to, using our little trick of using the ruler, you're going to put your ruler up against the score line and just gently fold up these pieces here. Now, I do these because they're great guidelines for you when you're putting in your covers, trying to get it lined up and everything. Okay, so you're going to go all the way round. You're going to lift, give it a light press. We don't want it right the way in, because if it's even very slightly out, that will show up from the other side. This is just to help it a little bit. Okay, so here and the other end, obviously. Right, now we can move on to our actual cover and spine, and this is where the change is. It was a 3/4 inch spine, I believe, maybe a 1 inch spine, and it's now a 1.5 inch spine. We needed that extra bit of room. I think I showed you in the last video. I'm actually going to delete that last video because it's not very helpful. Right, okay, so we have our 6 by 6 pieces of thicker cardstock. They don't have to be very thick because the actual paper is going to be very thick, and also, so don't forget, it's got the wrap on it as well. So we're going to take off our score tape backings, and I always have problems with this. Please bear with me. Should have done one in preparation, but I didn't, as usual. Forgot all about it. More nervous about getting the video done. Last piece. Right, okay, now I'm also going to run a little bit of wet glue around that, just because I want some wiggle room with it. Can you see okay? Yes, you can. Right, okay, so I have my paper up this side up with the tape on the inside. I have my front cover, back cover and spine already with my tape around on the inside of that. I'm going to add a little bit of wet glue just because it helps it, and hopefully my wet glue is going to behave today. And then using those fold lines, we can line this up very carefully. So we're going to not go over the score lines, but go right up to them. Mostly make sure that you go up to the outside edges, because it really doesn't matter if the spine is a little bit larger or roomier. You just don't want these outside edges having gaps. Okay, we're going to press that down. Go over that with our score tool to make sure that it's well adhered. I'm going to turn it round, do the other side, exactly the same. Remove the backing. Remove the backing. I wish just once it would behave itself. It does it okay all day, and then when I come to film, it won't do it. There we go. Right, a little bit more wet glue for me. There we go. You don't have to smother it, it's just a little bit, just to enable you to keep picking it up if you need to. Okay, again, very carefully line up with the bottom, the top, and the outside. See, you can pick it up when you need to. And the outside score lines that you've just made. You don't have to be, you know, absolutely spot on to the micromillimeter, but just try and get it as close as you can. Okay, right, make sure that your sides will tuck up and your ends. Now we're going to stick the spine down. Again, some wet glue. Up the middle. And I'm going to place this, centering it up inside those score lines. That's the lines that I got you to score. Here and here are your guide. That's where this needs to go. Okay? And that leaves you with a little gap here and a little gap on this side here. Slightly more on one side of mine than on the other, but there we go. Give it a little bit of a pull. Right, let's give that a burnish all over. And then we can set about sticking our album wrap around the outside. So we have, oh sorry, I dropped the phone there. We have our pieces folded up. These pieces are folded up, and we're going to go along the long sides. So we will remove the score tape on one side. And here, this should help you because you have your score lines on here, and all you need to do is match them up with the gaps there. So you push over the middle, push it down, hold it down till it sticks. You can use wet glue on this. In fact, I usually would, but for speed's sake, I'm using tape on this. But tape is fine, wet glue is fine, whichever you prefer. Okay, so we've got that down. I'm going to burnish this, and I like to give it a really nice sharp crease along the edge, but don't go too mad with it because don't forget it's just paper. It's just one step up from paper. Going to turn it round. Remove the tape. Press down the middle, line up those score lines just to make sure that you are on track. Don't worry about any little wrinkles that come in it because you'll be able to sort of manipulate those with your bone folder in a moment. So as you can see, I had a couple of wrinkles, but I'm actually going to push them in towards the center fold here. Okay, so I'm just going to get my edge nice and straight, and then I'm going to do the outer edges. But first I need to just I don't know if you can see this, but I just need to push this piece down there like that. You just use your bone folder to try and manipulate it where it's a little bit longer than the actual outside of your album. You can just get a little bit folded in there. Let me see if I can hold it up for you, if you haven't done this before. Can you see that at all? Okay, and then it's just a case of removing the tape as before. Manipulate that back again. Sometimes I find my tweezers are more help than anything else, especially when I haven't got my nails. I'm so pleased when lockdown's finished, I really will. First stop, nail shop. Second stop, hairdressers. Okay, so you take the centre and you push up and out, as we've done before. And you take your score tool, press this down hard. Try to work out any bumps or lumps that you might have gained. They're not going to show, but it's just a nicer finish. Turn it round and do the other side. Again, I'm just going to push those little pieces in. It's a bit of a fiddle, but if you can do it, do it. If not, it really doesn't matter too much. Just makes a neater corner, really. It's as if you were wrapping a present. However, it does give you a bit extra bulk in the corner. Right, okay. So we're going to find the middle, press down and towards you, up and away from you, and get your bone folder to try and work out some of those real lumpy bits. Don't go too mad with it, but just try and smooth them out as much as you can, flatten them as much as you can. Right, okay, so now since we've scored it already, this album should now fold up on those score lines. So we're just going to gently push this up. There we go. And we're going to gently push this side up. There we go. And this is your album cover. And as you can see, mine is fairly near the centre. It's not completely in the centre, but it's fairly near, and that's good enough. All these streaks and lines here are because the glue has soaked into the paper, but that's nothing to worry about because we are going to be covering that with designer series paper. You won't see that. You don't get that if you don't use the wet glue. If you only use tape, you don't get that. Right, okay, so that's what we have at the moment. That's our 6-inch cover with a 1.5-inch spine. Okay, so that moves us on to the next pieces, and that is your insides. Now I did this with an A3 sheet of card. I would recommend it if you have it, if you can get it. Definitely do. If you can't, just do what we did before, and that is join it in the middle. Right, so what you need to end up with essentially are 2 pieces that are a total of, I'm just trying to have a look on here, see if I've got it written down. No, the way I've written it down is the anchor page and the joining pages. So they will total 5 3/4 this way, and lengthways they will be, let me just measure that. Oh, unless I've written it down on a separate piece of paper, which is very like me, just to make things more difficult than they already are. I've got scraps of paper all over the place because I have to say, believe it or not, this is the most difficulty I've had with any box that I've done before, simply because of trying to get it all out of one paper pack. Right, okay, obviously I haven't. That's interesting, I'm surprised. So okay, I'll measure it here for you. So it is, you need 2 pieces. I'll show you how to get the 2 pieces in a moment if you're using A3. 2 pieces that are 5 3/4 by, let's measure one of them for ease, 5 3/4 by, that is 12 there, 5 3/4 by 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 inches. Okay. However, you will find that an A3 sheet of cardstock is pretty much exactly the size you need for the whole thing together. I found that all I had to do was trim off 1/8 of an inch top and one side. But yes, so the way that I did this was I took one sheet of the A3. Let me get a sheet to show you. You can see how close it is in size, look. Yeah, just, well, maybe 1/2 an inch on that side, and certainly about 1/8 of an inch, a tiny 1/8 of an inch on the other, on the long edge. So what I did was I put the whole sheet, without cutting it at all, on my scoreboard, because it does fit this way round, it does fit. And I worked on it like this. So I'll show you what I did. First of all, you score at, with the whole sheet, you don't cut it or anything, for the whole sheet at 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 inch. Then you score again at 6 inches, I believe. Let me just double check. You score again at, oh sorry, where's my book? A 1/4 inch, sorry. Then you score again at 6 inches, all the way down the length, like that. Then you score at 6 3/8 of an inch. So that's here, 6 3/8, down there. Then you turn the whole sheet around, like that, and you score at 3 5/8. That's there, all the way down, and then at 3 7/8. So 3 5/8 and 3 7/8. Okay, like that. Now, what I did then was I measured up for my 7 inches by putting my ruler on and a pencil. Measured across the 7 inches, 5 3/4 inches that you need, not 7 inches, take notice of me. Measured over the 5 3/4 inches and marked it all the way up, 5 3/4, 5 3/4, and then I used my ordinary scissors and cut down that line, and then I did the same again. And as I say, this is, you get 2 lots of 5 3/4 plus 1/8 of an inch spare, which is perfect. Okay. Right, so now, no matter how you did it, you will now have 2 pieces that look like this. And you need to, on the side that you scored it, that's the side we're going to fold. So on the first 1/4 inch, we're going to put 1/4 inch score tape down here and this piece. So both pieces treated exactly the same. 1/4 inch score tape. You're then going to start to fold this up. So you're going to go to not the first score line where the 1/4 inch tape is, but the second score line, and you're going to fold that under. And that's actually how in the end I cut it completely to size. So I just popped it on my cutter when it was folded like that and then cut it to size. Then you're going to take the next score line, the one that gives you the 3/8 of an inch gusset. You're going to line this up completely, finger press this down for the moment, and then you're going to open it out, and then you're going to again take the end 2 score lines, which are another gusset, a 1/4 inch gusset. Make sure they line up properly. Just give it a light score just to make absolutely certain. There and there. And the other one. So all the fold lines go the same way. Okay. There's that. And this one, which is a 1/4 inch. There we go. Right, I just remembered actually, when you are scoring your main sheet of card, this one here, actually you do have to cut it to length first, because this piece here otherwise will be more than 5 3/4. You need to end up with 1/4 inch, 5 3/4, 3/8, 5 3/4, 1/4, 3 1/2. Okay, so obviously I didn't measure this bit here, so you do actually have to cut this to size first and then do your score lines. Right, so having folded it everything inwards, you will end up with a piece that looks like this. So everything is folded into the centre. Okay, and obviously you're going to do the other one as well. Now what will happen is that you will have two pieces, if we're not careful, that the score tape is kind of the wrong way round. So you need to, on one of them, we need to have it so that the end, this piece here sticks out to the right, and on the other piece, once it's all folded up, it needs to stick out to the left. So you turn it upside down. Okay, so then you will end up like that. Do you see what I did? Firstly, it was this way round and they were both the same way, which we don't want. So you turn it upside down, and then these two little 1/4 inch flaps go back to back. But other than that, all the other folds are exactly the same. You just fold them all in along those score lines, like that, making sure that they all line up. Okay? Right, so back to back, like this. You should have a piece that looks like that. It has the two big gussets here, the two smaller ones here, and you will see, because that's gone over the top of it, there we go, and then in the middle will be the two pieces, the two flaps that we're going to stick to the album spine with your score tape on, that looks like, if I can get this to pop out for a moment, that looks like that. Okay, right, so bring our album cover back. We're going to open it up, and our first job is to stick the spine cover, the inside spine cover, so that it covers those score lines, because this is the piece that's actually going to hold all the weight. Okay, now you might like to do as I do, and that is, when I find I've got it centered up as best as possible, I will draw a line either side, so that when I take it away, take the tape off of it, I know where it's got to go when it comes back. So as you can see, I've got mine and I've completely covered it with score tape, or wet glue, either, but just so long as you completely cover it. Last one. Always the most stubborn, of course. Okay, just make sure that you can see me, what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to put it back where I had it. I'm going to make sure that there's an even gap, top and bottom, that it's straight, top and bottom, because this is the guide that you're going to use to measure up where your pages go. And then we're going to stick this down, give it a really good press down, and then find those score lines again and just reinforce them. There and there. This was much harder with the smaller spine, it's much easier this time. So using that, we're going to stand these up. You can of course put your ruler there, if that helps you feel more confident to hold it down. Just stand this up and put a little pressure behind it. And then we're going to turn it round and do the same thing the other side. So use your ruler if you need to. Stand this up and put a little pressure behind it. If you find you have problems with paper cracking on the spine when you do this, so you get paper cracks that appear down here and here, then use a very fine mister spray, very fine. I use this one, which I think is a Tim Holtz one, yeah, Ranger, and you just very lightly, from a distance, give it a spray into the air and kind of pass this through it. You want the lightest of sprays on here, and that will help the paper stretch so that it won't rip. But if your paper doesn't rip particularly, if you've done your scoring correctly, it probably won't rip. But if you are struggling a little bit, then a little spray goes a long way. Just don't soak it, whatever you do. Right, okay, so now all we need to do is assemble our album. So we're going to take our first folded up piece, and for this piece we're looking for the one that the spine here, when we have it folded like this, the spine goes to the left. Do you see that? Okay, now when we place this in, we're looking to place this so that this spine goes quite close. Let me get this out of the way for a moment to show you that it goes quite close to the fold line, but not right up against it. So there should be a hair's breadth really between the spine and the, you know, the score line and where we're going to stick this down to. Now we need to make sure that this is completely lined up in here, that it's not out at all. Move that back a bit to about there, and I'm probably going to use a binder clip to hold it in place, just simply because my hands shake a bit and I need to be really certain that it's straight. I'm having a wobbly day today. Okay, so we make sure that that's straight. This is the most careful piece you need to do really. And then just to make sure, fold up your page and make sure that it's still straight. See, mine's out a little bit, so that means my spine's out a little bit. There, across to there. Okay, so making sure you have it aligned up on the right side, of course. And you have the right gap top and bottom, or you think you have. I'm just going to hold it in place for a moment and attach a folder clip just to hold it there while I stick it down. I use folder clips all the time for everything actually. Right, that's got to go just back a tiny wee bit. There we go. You see, it's better to take the time now to make sure that everything, you know, that it doesn't knock onto anything, and to get the album put together and find that it does, because once it's together you can't take it apart really. And it's very difficult to take it apart anyway. Just move that over a tiny bit. Make sure that that folds up correctly. Yeah. Right, okay, so again just remove the backing tape. Aha. Excuse me, after I'm doing it all, I don't know what I'm doing here. This piece does go over here, So it opens, obviously this piece here sticks to the spine, not to the cover. Goodness me. So you have to line it up on the spine, not on the cover, Janet. Goodness me. So go through the whole process again. Put my spine clip on. I thought I did it right the first time. Obviously I did. Okay. So you remove your backing tape. And press this down. Carefully, making sure it's aligned. Right, now then, when that folds up, we will keep our fingers crossed that that folds up correctly. And it does. There we go. So now we're going to turn it round and we're going to adhere our other piece. This time making sure that this spine fold goes the other way. We'll go to the right. I've got it upside down just because it's easier for me to see. So line this up with your, as best you can, with the paper underneath, with the card underneath. Try to make it as good as possible. We can probably make some minor adjustments if we need to later on, but best to try and get it right in the first place. So we're going to open that out, get it out of the way, open that out, line these two pieces up, line that up with the spine and with the spine there. To just finger press that down for the moment till I double check it, because you do have a little bit of leeway even with score tape if you don't, you know, burnish it to start with. So this piece is going to fold under here, this piece is going to fold under here, and we have a gap in the middle of the spine which we didn't have last time, so we had no ease of movement. So when we close it up, it's going to look like this. Okay? So you have your pages like this. You have your two centre spines that come together there, and you have your smaller spines that go at the back, one there and one there, and it all folds together. And it's very nice and neat, and it's got plenty of room for us to add our pockets, waterfalls and embellishments. Okay, right, so I'm going to leave it there. The next video will be about fixing all the pockets and the other pieces in. Mainly, that should be a very quick one as well, because they're all exactly the same size and we adhere them all the same way. Oh, first of all, before I go, what would be a really good idea is to number the pages so that we don't get in a state. So the inside cover here is page 1. The second one is page 2. Open the flap out. This is page 3. Page 3. And the flap is page 4. Turn it over, the back of the flap is page 5. Turn it over again, page 6. Turn it over again, page 7. You'll see that you've got 14 pages in this. Then as it's open flat out, this is page 8. Open it up, and this is page 9. Open it up again, and the half flap here is page 10. Open the flap, page 11. The middle bit, page 12. This bit here that borders onto the cover is page 13, and the inside cover is page 14. Now I did measure about how many photos you can get in here, and because it's the larger size you can use the 6x4 photos, and also our waterfall is 4x4, which means you can print photos from Instagram if you like to print them off of there, or any pictures you like, whatever. But you can use, like I say, you can use the 6x4 picture format in here, and I think I measured it at 35 plus photos. Obviously not all 6x4s, a variety of different sizes, but you can get 35 plus photos in here. Right, okay, so we're going to leave it here. Much shorter video for you, a bit more easy watching, I think, I hope. I just hope it's come out. And we'll pick the next one up when we come to put on all of the pockets, inserts, flaps, flips and everything else. Okay, great, thank you for watching. Bye now.